All right. Welcome, everybody. And hello, everyone. My name is Jerome Maurey-Delaunay, and I'm an industry senior technical specialist focused on automotive transport and manufacturing. In this session today, I'll be covering Furioos, Unity's cloud-based streaming solution that makes it easy and affordable to stream any real-time 3D experience built either with Unreal, Unity, or else to any browser. Now, let's get started. Joining me today is Christophe Robert, who's the co-founder and head of Furioos. Christophe, I'll let you introduce yourself quickly, maybe.
Hello guys, super happy to attend this presentation. Thanks for the invite, Jerome. So I'm Christophe, as you say, co-founder of Furioos, more on the product side. Basically, we joined Unity 1 year ago, and we are super happy to have joined this family. So if you have any question concerning Furioos at the end of this presentation, feel free to ask. Thanks, Jerome.
Awesome, and thank you for being here with me today. Topics we'll cover today. So this is going to be a talk focusing on deploying experiences to the web, right? And we'll be covering, first of all, short introduction to set the stage and the context of what we'll be covering. We'll cover the challenges of deploying a high-quality, complex WebGL experiences. Also, how real-time streaming can help improve or overcome a lot of these challenges, how Furioos makes it easy and affordable. And finally, we'll use the remaining time for your questions with the help of Christophe and try to answer as many as possible. Now, let's get started. Right. It goes without saying that this is a challenging time, right? And we are seeing transformation across the board on how product, goods, and services are designed, manufactured, and sold, right? Customer expectation are evolving really rapidly. We have a new generation of digital native, which tend to also transform the way retail is coping. Everything is moving online, as highlighted in the little box on the right here, right? Who's fueling digital transformation. COVID-19 has been an accelerator of moving to on-demand for goods and services. And this is obviously exemplified by the rise of Amazon Prime or else, and also Netflix, right? Speed is also essential, right? Momentum is key in this economy. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to roll out product quickly, right? Make faster decisions, and also find new ways of collaborating when workforce are spread out and no longer inside the same facilities. And also, obviously, reducing time to market is key in order to be more efficient and ride an ever-changing landscape. Personalization is also one key element that is changing. More and more goods and services are leveraging data analytics, machine learning, AI to customers' experiences, right? But also drive the purchase decision with tailored content, right? Try to find that emotional relation that you would get when you go to a brick and mortar shop or when you go into a showroom, right? How do you transfer that to a digital landscape? Data security is also key. As more and more of our goods and services move online, we need to protect our IP, and we also obviously need to protect the customer data. So deploying rich, immersive, high-fidelity experiences on the web can be both challenging and frustrating. I just want to be clear that this is not about bashing WebGL. WebGL is actually a very popular Unity desktop target platform, exemplified by this online configurator for the Porsche Taycan, right, which is made with Unity and is using our legacy WebGL desktop player. The main limitation here is that it's actually a desktop only and not targeting mobile. Although you can hack it, it's not officially supported. For mobile, we do have efforts called Project Tiny, which is under heavy development. This is our new mobile web-first runtime built on top of Unity's data-oriented test stack. So that's DOTS, right? And is lightweight, fully modular web player engineered for instant experiences. Obviously, lacking a little bit on the visual quality side of things. So the web is a fragmented platform. You have multiple devices from desktop, laptop, notebooks, tablets, smart TVs, etc. Browsers, multiple browsers per platform per OS. Different connectivity contexts from 3G all the way to persistent fiber-based connectivity, and also various methods of interacting with the content via the input system like keyboard and mouse, touch controllers, or simple TV remotes, right? On the right is the something that I wanted to highlight. It's a website called Can I Use, which is a popular tool in order to see which features are available across devices and browsers when you decide to adopt them. As highlighted on the right with the arrow, you would see that you can also test against 2,000 browser permutation across OS and devices, which is quite a daunting task when you're trying to roll out content. If we look at WebGL 2.0, the latest version of WebGL that's based on OpenGL ES3, we can see that although it is working across most Android devices, for example, on mobile, it is not supported out of the box on any of the iOS devices through Safari. This is something that can be enabled with via the developer options, but something unlikely to be done by most users, right? So you're stuck with basically the lower common denominator. This leads to basically a difficult exercise in compromise when you're trying to roll out high fidelity, rich, photoreal content or immersive experiences on the web. Right? It's a trade-off between quality, interactivity. So quality is reducing the visual. You have to often reduce the visual quality to lower resolution assets, target all the devices. Interactivity, you need to pre-render a lot of the elements in order, also known as baking, in order to ensure smooth frame rates, reducing the interactivity and also the options to explore. You need to limit your audience based on the cost of maintaining multi-channel, multi-device, multi-platform specific experiences, even through the browser, which leads to, again, inconsistent products and brand experiences. And in the end, you're always reducing your reach when you tend to tweak upwards any of those settings, right? Because you are bound and limited by the client-side capabilities, by their hardware in the user's hand, right? And as with most things, you often need to readjust your expectations when you want to roll out high quality, high fidelity, visual or immersive experiences on the web. I wanted to highlight that customer expectations are also changing. On-demand goods and services, right, are driving consumer habits. The vast majority, actually, of the internet traffic today is streaming video, right? Not necessarily geared towards application downloads or things like this, right? But also, this on-demand video setup is seamlessly integrated into customer journeys on the web and even enrich them. The delivery of a streaming video is instant and the engagement is persistent, right? You switching from device to device, you're able to resume where you left off. Think Netflix, for example, on your mobile or tablet, and then switching to a smart TV. Now, the solution for deploying complex, immersive, interactive experiences is real-time streaming, also known as server-side streaming. This simply means that rather than running the experience locally on the user's device, right, the application is running on a remote server, and each frame is being sent to the user's device. At the same time, the user's input, mouse, keyboard, or touch, are relayed to the remote server and update the application state as needed. So it feels like they're having a one-to-one interaction with the content. Why would you use server-side rendering? So you have a predictable environment using a single type of virtual machine on predictable hardware, right? So you know what you're going to run on, you can optimize for this, and you know that across the board, regardless of what device the user is using, this will be able to deliver the best experience possible. You have reliable performance, fast storage, workstation-grade multi-core CPUs, the latest GPUs, a vast amount of RAM. You have high-quality assets. You are able to render complex products with true-to-life photorealistic rendering. It's secure. You do not send any 3D models, any textures, any materials, or even scripts or behaviors from your application. You only ship out pixels, right? And then you reduce the required compromise in order to deliver the best and consistent user experience regardless of the end device. The reach is also greatly improved. If we use, again, can I use on WebRTC, right, which is the protocol used to deliver interactive video, 95% of browsers globally support the format, and most modern devices can also efficiently display full HD video stream, which means that battery consumption and engagement can be lengthy without drawing out all the power from the device, right? And I know you reduce friction, right? No lengthy download or having to wait for everything to appear on the device. You can seamlessly, again, integrate inside your customer journey or your user journey, right, by embedding the content directly into a web page. You can centralize the distribution of your assets. That's great, but why isn't everyone already using real-time streaming? So let's look at the challenges, right? Deploying real-time interactive streaming solution has a lot of moving parts. Let's go through some of these, and we'll start with orchestration. Managing a cloud infrastructure, pre-purchase, pre-allocate GPU power virtual machine globally is a daunting task. Managing the scale of virtual machines also is a 24/7 engagement. You need to manage the virtual machine lifecycle, start, initialize, and stop your virtual machine to drive the experience. The stopping is really important because otherwise costs keep occurring. You need to manage a complex software stack, right? That includes the signaling server to connect a virtual machine to the end user, the containers that are going to be run on the virtual machine. You need to inject WebRTC support either into your container or into your application, and you need to manage licenses, right? If you want to run, let's say, for example, with the latest RTX API from NVIDIA, more than likely you would use Windows OS that comes with a per processor license. And also you need to have a license for something like NVIDIA Grid, right? And these are often hidden costs, but can be substantial as you scale your experiences. This leads to large upfront costs. You need to pay for 100% utilization, regardless of the usage in the end, right? You need to prepay for all that infrastructure. And in the end, also, you need to manage your storage and your bandwidth, which can add up to a pretty penny, especially because you need to stream quite a bit of data without tapping into optimization, right? Which are quite complex. So in the end, this is where Furioos comes into play, providing an easy-to-use solution for deploying real-time streaming content at scale globally to any device. So the advantage is it's a self-serve service, right? You can sign up instantly and start sharing in a few clicks. It's fully automated, fully managed, easy to use, and easy to embed inside a website. It's fully scalable with large numbers of concurrent, supporting large numbers of concurrent users. We did tests at scales with multiple thousands of concurrent sessions. Predictable cost, clear upfront pricing, right, that you can rely on. You pay for what you use. There's a minimum need for pre-allocating or pre-paying basically for infrastructure, right? This is really an on-demand management. And you protect yourself from overages, right? Quotas, you can set per link controls, per campaign budgets, so you never go over your allocated quota. Also, it works with any Windows application, being Unity, Unreal, or other. Right? Supports real-time ray tracing. We're using the latest and greatest GPU on Google Cloud Platform. You can also stream the audio from the experience, so you can have a fully immersive experience through Furioos. The virtual machines are fully connected. You can load assets externally. They don't have to be embedded inside the application, which also means that they can be updated throughout the lifetime of the project. And it's fully extensible, just like everything with Unity, providing a Unity, Unreal, and the JavaScript SDK to connect all the blocks together. Now we're going to cover getting started with Furioos. So streaming in 4 easy steps. Number 1, go to furioos.com. Number 2, sign up for the service. Number 3, upload your Windows build to the platform, drag and drop, pretty easy. Number 4, you can then create a share link and you're done. There we go. So I think we can wrap up and now all go home. No, just kidding. Let's cover some of the key features of the platform and of the user experience when leveraging Furioos. First of all, is the sharing, right? There's 2 ways of sharing. You can either share a link to generate quickly a unique link, including obviously a maximum session time to limit how much resources or how much credit this is going to consume. And you can include password protection. Or you can embed the experience on your website, which is usually the preferred method in order to have a more a smoother user experience through the platform that integrates with your own flow, right? and generate embed code. As mentioned, you can also password protect, put quotas, and you have full control over the user experience, including full white labeling, so no one has to know that this is running on Furioos, right? This is really key. We do want to emphasize that Furioos can be completely transparent to your users. At the core of the platform is the campaign system. This is where you basically manage a lot of the delivery for your experience. You have access to advanced settings like geolocation, so you can pick per region campaigns to support multiple time zones, for example, right? You can specify the virtual machine hardware. There are 3 tiers on Furioos, and Furioos will actually let you know if you chose, for example, a hardware tier that's overkill for your application, so you can actually scale it back. Obviously, the lower the hardware, the lower the costs. So this is, again, built into the platform to really optimize the return on investment, right, of campaigns on Furioos. And you can also dictate here the maximum number of concurrent users, the maximum number of VMs that would be running at any one time to serve the experience, right? The buffer is one of the central control that you have for the pre-allocation, right? So the idea is with Furioos, normally, let's say a buffer of 4 would be high pre-allocation. So that's 4 machines that are running while you are running this campaign, right? This is only the only pre-allocation that you need to pay for. What Furioos does is it pre-warms the VMs inside the buffer, and as a user connects and gets an instant-on experience, basically, another virtual machine is added to the buffer. So there's always 4 waiting for users to connect, or more if you decide to increase that number. Right, and that allows you to also have a really clear cost, upfront cost, by selecting the dates, precisely when you want to run this campaign, the days and the times. Right, you can also have the option to disable the whole thing after hours, which means that no VM will be made available during outside of the allocated time. Really useful to control, again, costs. You can use a cost estimator inside the campaign user experience on the website to estimate your cost, right? It's similar to what it's using the whale curve from Facebook. You can use this to sort of get an idea of how much the campaign will cost based on users per day and the buffer allocation, etc., right? And also, obviously, the VM type. Throughout the platform, there are multiple levels of cost management to ensure that you never go over budget. This is one of the core tenets of Furioos. This include account limits. So throughout the whole account, all of the links, all of the campaign, ensuring that they do not go over a quota that has been set. You can do per link, obviously, and per embed quotas, but also per campaign quotas, right? So you really have full control as to the costs of a specific campaign and never go over. You can also choose to opt out of these cost restrictions at your own risk, but this is something you can do if you need to ensure that things don't stop running. The Furioos SDK is one of the great strengths of the platform. These come in 3 flavors. The JavaScript SDK that allows you to customize the embed experience on the website, where you're going to embed on the web page, where you're going to embed your Furioos stream. This allows you to completely make the Furioos experience seamlessly integrated and transparent to your users, right? And you have full API control over the application lifecycle, right? So you can know when the application has started on the server, you can know when it has timeout. So you stop basically the clock and show the proper user experience. There's a Unity SDK that's already released, and the Unreal C++ and Blueprint SDK will be released really soon. We're hoping this month or next, right? It's all ready to go. If you want more information on this, you can reach out to me or Christophe, and we'll be happy to engage. These are 2 examples that the Furioos team put together for me. So thank you to them. They worked hard on these. On the left is a architectural visualization on Furioos embedded on the website. The UI that you see, the tile floor, the wood floor, the concrete floor, all of this is HTML, right? This is not embedded inside the Unreal experience. On the right is a similar setup with a Unity application showing our Viera model and a nice little showroom. Again, you can change colors, interact with the content inside the Unity application via the HTML user interface. This is really key, for example, for configurators. If you want to have something like a VIP configurator, which is full 3D and really an immersive experience, versus a run-of-the-mill untargeted configurator that would use traditional 2D assets, pre-rendered material. But you don't have to pick and choose. You can actually seamlessly switch between the two based on the customer that you are targeting. I'll cover now some of the use cases for Furioos. So these are examples on how we at Unity are using Furioos internally, but also how we've seen our customers use them. The first is team collaboration, right? As people are spread out due to COVID and a changing work environment, it's important to be able to have access to computing power remotely without necessarily putting in place a costly infrastructure. So we've seen people using Furioos for design review. It does support real-time ray tracing, which allows you to really get high fidelity graphics. This is a frame captured from the BMW demo that we released last year. That's running fine at 60 frames per second on the Furioos VM. Next to it is visualizing large data set. For example, here is a Faro LiDAR scan of the Unity office in Brighton. And you can seamlessly load these type of data sets onto a virtual machine that has up to 24 gigabytes of RAM, for example. So you're really not bound by the hardware limitation on the end device for the user. And also a connected experience here, a 4D viewer to see a construction schedule linked to our Unity Reflect product that allows you to seamlessly stream this inside a Furioos virtual machine from the Reflect cloud servers, right? So also quite popular asset review. If you do AAA gaming, VFX, or even animation, right? You have Alembic cache, for example, for animation, which can be multiple gigabytes. You need photorealistic rendering in order to view really in context how the asset is going to perform. And if you're using Unreal Engine or Unity Engine, for example, you can see inside the engine how the asset is going to look. And you can also preview all of this on any device by streaming it through Furioos, right? Seamlessly. And again, the one next to it is Look Dev with our friend the Frog here that my colleague Ben is developing as a set of assets. And this is a Look Dev, which normally will be a turntable pre-rendered every day or every time a modification needs approval. And here you can have an interactive one online. Since the VM is connected, you don't have to host the actual assets on Furioos. They can be hosted on your own infrastructure. You can just load them at runtime inside the Unity or Unreal application where you're doing your Look Dev, right? Some consumer-facing applications here. The obvious one is architectural visualization, right? This is one of the probably first use cases for Furioos that has really driven the platform, is being able to show high-quality, fully interactive environment with photorealistic rendering, right? The next is product configurator or product launch, also really popular. The ability to show multi-layer materials, complex structure, rich environment, being able to interact with the product, being able to drive the car, being able to hear the sounds and really get a feel for the experience and the product is quite important. And then one of those more for storytelling and media and entertainment is personalized storytelling, right? Being able to localize the content, visualize the asset, and make the experience really targeted to the market and the end viewer, right? Here we have a friend from, I can't remember the name now, Edmond and Lucy, a French animation studio where you can basically change the weather from summer to winter. And this could be completely dynamic based on the user location and the weather at that time, right? I wanted to close the slides with a case study on ScienceSpace. ScienceSpace is ScienceSpace created a social hub platform where people could congregate, and transform this into Break Room, which is a social hub for events and remote teams, right? So geared toward business, not necessarily like a Second Life type application. But it's a good way to bring people together in a safe, secure, and branded virtual space, right? Host and monetize conferences and exhibition, and give communities a place where they can hang out, connect with their peers, and chat around, the water cooler, basically, and be part of the group, right? So kind of physicalize a little bit the virtual events in order to get back to what we were used to in trade shows and conferences, right? The world streaming on any device is via Furioos, right? So they're delivering this directly through Furioos. So all the user needs is a run-of-the-mill PC or laptop or a mobile device, right? And they are able to, via Furioos, experience, immersive, graphically rich and virtual environments, virtual worlds, right? Without heavy download, right? And they also works on smartphone, and they are working on an XR version, but that will be coming later. They shared with me 4 virtual events which they held this year, right? And these are pretty high-profile companies or organizations that were looking for solutions in order to transfer some of their physical events into virtual ones, but wanted to kind of step away from the traditional videos, Zoom style webinar like we're having today, but do something more immersive, more personal, more customizable, and more engaging, right? And has the quote from the Economist Group indicates, right, the actually enjoyment and appreciation, right, were quite high. And that's really what I want to emphasize here, right? So the first one was for the Economist Group. And as you can see, right, 80 delegates, C-level suite people over 2 days that spent on average 6.5 hours, which is quite an achievement, especially when you know that these are busy people, decision makers. But I think the fact that they were able to be immersed into this environment, to kind of congregate into groups. A lot of these events are using our Vivox backend in order to do voice chat, right? And this is a spatial API which allows you to connect people that are close by within the environment to recreate kind of the natural feel of a conference where you're able to, join the group and start a conversation. The next one is for Deutsche Bank. Again, 4 days of event, right, with 660 delegates, an average of an hour and a half engagement, which is quite substantial, right? When you for this type of virtual events, they're really, really difficult to keep people connected and engaged. Stanford University, 210 minutes average session time for 70 delegates, also with breakouts room or breakout spaces where people were able to go and discuss specific topics. And finally, the United Nations, right? Again, almost 2 hours on average session time, 100 delegates, C-level, heads of departments or institutions. So really high-profile people that stayed engaged and really enjoyed the platform. And I wanted to emphasize that, using a solution like Break Room and Furioos, you're able to go beyond video conferencing and create rich social spaces where people can connect and from any device. So I think that's it for my slides. About 30 minutes. I ran a little fast. We have some time for Q&A. So I see there's already some questions in the chat. So does Furioos support multi-display features only available on standalone platforms? So I'm going to say no on that. Furioos on the VM is basically a one display, right? So you have a single screen, limited to 1080p for now, Christophe?
It is limited to 1080p at the moment, 1080p, 60 frames per second. But of course, we are, always improving the encoding, side of Furioos. So yeah, many new things are going to come.
All right, next question. Does it support multiple instances? Let's say if I want to have 20 users accessing one instance of my Unity app, what's the bandwidth usage limit? So 20 users accessing Unity app will mean 20 virtual machines, right? So 20 sessions. So we don't do session pooling yet. And I'm sure that's on the roadmap eventually, but this is also dependent on the resources that the application consumes. So just because you allow that feature doesn't mean that you can actually do it at the hardware level, right? So keep that in mind. Now, the bandwidth usage limit, there's none. Furioos is an all-inclusive pricing model. So you pay per minute, and that includes bandwidth usage, right? And as I discussed with Christophe earlier today, Furioos uses that as the incentive to optimize the video stream to make sure it is as minimal and as efficient as possible, right?
Yeah, and if I can jump on this, Jerome, concerning the multi-instance, yet it's not supported on Furioos, but Furioos can use one other Unity product in order to switch from one streaming engine to another. The name of the product is Render Streaming. It's developed by the Japan team at Unity. And Furioos is now fully compatible with render streaming and it can be used as an alternative streaming server. So as soon as we detect the signaling server of render streaming, we switch from one to another. The good news is with render streaming, you can use multiple camera, which is not exactly multiple instances, but you can have this, in between way to solve your problem. So I don't know if it answers your question, but that could be a good things to look at, because those guys are doing an amazing job. So yeah, you can investigate this way.
So I have two questions from Laurie. The first one is about why no game examples, right? Is there any limitation to the platform that haven't been discussed? No, we do have full controller support, right?
Yeah, exactly. We have native gamepad support. We have a super low latency, streaming engine. And by the way, we play video games when we have time on Furioos. The only reason we do not present, when we do not focus that much right now on the game, is we don't want to be, see as competitor of Stadia or things like that. Those platforms are really cloud gaming oriented. They are really consumer oriented. We are more like focusing on providing tools to the content creators, no matter which industry they work in. So if you are a game developer, for instance, and you want to create and to propose some demos of your game embedded on your website to the visitors of your website, it is doable using Furioos. No worries.
All right. And another follow-up, is it appropriate for 4VR? No, we do not do yet XR rendering, right?
Not yet. Basically, the problem is not the technical challenge. There are a lot of ways in order to be able to stream in autonomous VR headsets such as Oculus Quest, for instance. This is something we are really, really looking into. We have a very strong partnership with our friends at NVIDIA, of course, in order to improve this. The main problem at the moment is the network latency, because as you know, playing a video game in a browser, if you have something like 100 milliseconds of latency, it's gaming compliant. No worries, you are not going to have a bad experience. But streaming in a VR headset requires super low latency and close to zero latency, basically, in order to avoid the motion sickness thing.
Yeah.
And this could be solved, hopefully when the 5G connection is going to become a standard. And because this technology is reducing a lot the latency. So it is doable, for testing purposes. Okay, we could create a proof of concept and so, but on Furioos, we want to, reach the masses. And if we want to provide a VR compatibility feature, we want to make sure anyone on the planet can have access to it.
Perfect. Yeah. Also, beyond low latency, if you want to do basically XR streaming, you need predictive rendering, which means the platform needs to predict where the user's head is going to be by the time the frame arrives, right? So kind of combine the two, and that requires something like Cloud XR from NVIDIA. They are working on it, but it's something that you would deploy mostly locally on a low latency network. When you move it to a cloud infrastructure, it might be a little bit more challenging to get to a reconciliation between your rendered frames and the user's expectations, right, for head position, etc. So interesting question. So this we answered. If Unity supports the new web GPU technology tomorrow, why would I rather prefer Furioos rather than using Unity web GPU deployment? So I'm not sure what web GPU is, but Furioos is not only about the rendering, right? So the GPU powered rendering, it's also about managing the embed and the sharing of that content, right? And providing a transparent solution in order to do that easily. So whatever infrastructure you need to rely on in order to render those frames is costly, as we discussed, and really complex to manage. So this is why you would prefer Furioos to most other DIY technology. And again, in the back end, right, we could be tapping into other GPU-based renderer or even CPU-based renderer eventually, depending on the platform. But at the end of the day, Furioos is really about the user journey. Interactions via AR and VR devices supported. I think we covered that already. Not at this time, but this is something that NVIDIA is also working on with Cloud XR specifically. And obviously, if there is a way of making it work, we will make it work. Render streaming, which Christophe mentioned, is also an open source project. The implementation in Unity, it's on GitHub. If you need the info, you can reach out to me and I'll send you the details. That might actually be able to support eventually AR or VR. I've seen some really good example of both Quest and AR Core, so on Android mostly, because there's a client for Cloud XR from NVIDIA, which do really good streaming to the device. Again, if you do AR, the latency, as Christophe highlighted for games, is not as important as VR. VR is really difficult because of motion sickness or VR sickness. Whereas in AR, you can have higher latency. It's not too bad. But yeah, definitely cloud streaming, Cloud XR is something we are looking at and addressing. Is it possible to receive the video stream within Unity, having a Unity client which connects to Furioos instead of a web browser? So I don't think we have a Unity client yet, do we, Christophe?
Not yet, but this is a very good question. It's more like a Furioosception, basically. Can we provide a Furioos stream and so on? We did some tests this way, so I like this question. Definitely, you can have Furioos running on any web view. So basically, you can implement a web view on any software. It's going to be compatible. Of course, it requires some testing. But if this web view is compatible with WebRTC, there's no doubt Furioos is going to work as well. We put a lot of effort in making Furioos compatible with many different use cases, different network configurations, for instance, different web browser, different. So yes, definitely a good idea. And if you want to do some tests, don't hesitate to connect with the team through Jerome, for instance. That would be very interesting, I guess.
Yep. And that goes also for Unreal, right? Keep in mind that Furioos is a cross-platform solution. I work for Unity, but a lot of my friends and old colleagues have been using Furioos with their Unreal development and getting great results there too. And it's really important, and it's super optimized also to run, to stream out Unreal content. Good question from an old mate here. Is there a price model set up to deploy it on our own server network to keep all the data inside the company's security compliance?
Wow.
Stuff.
Can I jump on this? Makes perfect sense. So in order to answer the question, we do not provide yet, and we do not want to provide an on-prem version of Furioos. That's too tedious to manage and so on. But we are working on some cool features for 2021. I cannot do nothing but tease about this. Yeah, as you can imagine, we are working on this kind of feature. That's super interesting, especially concerning the security of the data, the confidentiality of the data. This is something we do care about a lot, especially because now Furioos is used, in a white label way by huge companies, and of course they do care about their data. So out of the box, Furioos is super secured in terms of storage, for instance. Each session, as an example, start with a fresh new install of Windows, and after a session ends, we completely destroy the virtual machine. So basically, security and confidentiality is key for us. But we want, of course, to still work on this, and of course, being able to provide Furioos for an existing data center and things like that is something that is really interesting.
Yep. So, and sorry. I was reading the question, so I don't know if you touched on this, but since the VMs are fully connected, the application that displays the content obviously needs to be hosted on Furioos, but none of the assets have to, right? And with our asset bundle mechanism, for example, but I'm sure there's something equivalent also for Unreal, you can encrypt the content, right, while it is in transit, and then decrypt it on the virtual machine within the runtime in order to showcase the content, right? And again, one of the main advantages here is even if somebody gets access to the VM, all they're going to be able to reap is pixels, right? And they won't be able to get any of the 3D data or materials or IP that's being displayed, right? Just the final render. How difficult is it to implement various types of inputs from different devices? Super easy, barely any convenience. Christophe?
Basically, we deal with all the inputs natively. So you just have to build your application, the same way as you do usually. Basically, you just set up, keyboard support, touch events. We also convert gamepad events. So there is no extra work in order to deal with inputs. We also support, and trust me, it's a huge mess, all the different keyboards, all the languages. And so I would like to thank Samuel who worked on this. It was kind of a nightmare, especially the French keyboard and so. So yes, basically I would say it worked out of the box. But just as a reminder, Jerome, I think you missed one question from.
Yep. I know. It's just that this one was first.
Oh,
that's okay. So if I'm streaming through a mobile device, do I need to set up mobile-based controls like GUI in Unity, in the Unity build, or is there any SDK that where we can import it? So as we mentioned, you do not need to necessarily embed any of the UI within your experience running on Furioos, right? That's either Unreal or Unity. You can use the SDKs, so the JavaScript SDK in the browser where the user is consuming or the session is being consumed, right? That connects directly to the virtual machine and to the application running on this virtual machine. And in the application side, we provide a Unity SDK out of the box, and we will be releasing the Unreal SDK very soon. So this is how you can move all your UI to HTML if that's where you want to host it. Now, if you want to do your UI inside the runtime, then you can do so. And the events will be passed, as Christophe mentioned, transparently to the runtime. I would advise people as much as possible to externalize the UI if that's possible. It makes more sense. You can use a really reactive UI system like React from Facebook to create dynamic UIs that resize correctly on various platforms that supports all of the intricacies of web development, right? If you put the UI inside either Unity or Unreal, then you need to basically do all that natively, which can be cumbersome if you want to support really multi-platform. So just an FYI, but yes, fully supported either way, and yes, there is SDKs. So can Furioos play videos that are in a Unity project? If so, which codec are supported? Yes, you can play video. I've seen MP4s. playing. Actually, you can play video embedded in the project the same way Unity would do. So this is a Windows runtime. So everything that runs on vanilla Windows will work. You can also stream videos because it's a connected VM. So you don't necessarily have to embed them. If you can avoid it, I would advise it, just because the least amount of data you put inside your executable application on Furioos, the faster it's going to start up. Right. Keep in mind that even we have, fast storage and really efficient processes, it still takes a while to load a, multi-gigabyte application. So if you can externalize the assets and use a dynamic loading system like Asset Bundle and stream video, then do so. But that everything works there. Any codec or decoding that you've seen, Christophe, that works better than other? I also to mention that some of what ScienceSpace has been doing is using, video chat, streaming like Zoom, etc., right? Embedded in their Unity experience.
Yeah, exactly. They are doing, amazing tricks using this is what we call the Minecraft effect. Basically, we are providing a sandbox for the content creator to play with, and at some point we have, unexpected things happening, such as sine wave saying that, hey, I'm working on this, video cam streaming on Furioos, and we were like, what are you doing? So definitely it's a bit too technical in order for me to dive into these codec things, but I would say that if it works on Windows, it's going to work on Furioos as well. It's that simple, basically.
Do you have plans to support non-Windows platforms?
Not at the moment, because we want to provide something that is super user-friendly, easy to use, and we don't want to ask, people to install Linux, for instance, and to compile their game in Linux. Of course, it's going to be a little bit cheaper in terms of, virtual machine, because you can get rid of the Windows license. But definitely at the moment, it's not the plan. We still want to provide Furioos in the most easy and convenient way for at least, some time.
I'm navigating the sea of ignorance here, but do you know if render streaming is actually Windows only, or do they support Linux?
It's a good question. Maybe someone in the audience can answer.
So Christophe and I are both navigating the sea of ignorance at this stage.
Can I ask a friend?
Let's call someone. Oh, do you have any plan to connect Furioos as an embedded medium with social networks like Instagram or Facebook in order to organize mass market campaigns? Really good question. And do you think is cost ready for mass market ad campaigns? So, Christophe.
Very, very good question, and very good sense of the market. I cannot answer strategic, decision at the moment. So I would just focus on the technical side. Basically, a Furioos application is nothing but an iframe. So basically, we can embed it, anywhere on any web page, any web app, or so. So that's my answer. So technically, it would be doable. Concerning your question, is Furioos cost ready for mass market ad campaigns? I would say at the moment we don't want to compete with WebGL. As Jerome mentioned, WebGL it's okay for mass market ad campaign in 3D, for instance. I would say that for super high value-added products, expensive products such as cars, apartments, office space, for instance, that would make sense. Yes, and we are going to soon release some, connection with advertising. But yeah, once again, stay tuned and contact us if you have some use cases.
So shout out to Kelly in the attendees who had the correct answer. Yes, render streaming works on Linux. And I also checked on the repository. So if you do Unity render streaming, you shall find it. Thank you, Kelly. So what next? Well, you can go to unity.com/products/Unity Furioos in order to find out more about Furioos. You can also find out more about Break Room at the URL here, and sign up for Furioos at furioos.com. Obviously, here are contact details for myself and Christophe, both Twitter and LinkedIn. Hope that's okay, Christophe.
Yeah, before we stop, congrats for your presentation. It was better than when I present Furioos. So
you're too kind. I think I was a bit fast. I ran through this in 30 minutes, like a new world record.
I'd like to put the spotlight on the, if you have 1 minute on the Furioos team.
Yes, please.
Julien, Maxence, Nicolas, Samuel, Thierry, Ulysse, our intern, and of course, Michael, who is leading these things. Trust me, sometimes it's kind of hard, but we are, super happy to have, feedbacks from the users. We are super user centric when we develop Furioos. So we hope you will like it. If you have any question, feel free to reach us. It's sometimes a bit long for us to reply because we have so many demands, but we are always super happy to have your feedbacks and to, take your feedback into consideration in order to make Furioos even better. So yeah, congrats to everyone and thank you.
Awesome. And also Furioos was powering our Ring the Bell UAPO, so Unity IPO. There was an experience hosted on Furioos, which I know that allowed every employee at Unity to ring the bell of the New York Stock Exchange, which was a daunting task and a huge stress test of the platform. These guys are doing amazing work, and I actually known Furioos way before they became a Unity team. So really excited to present this to you. As mentioned, any question, reach out on social media. Happy to engage. Thank you for attending. Thank you so much for taking time and listening to us. And we'll see you soon. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.